Welcome back, everyone. So today, as you can see, we have a very, very special guest. You may know him from, the pop punk band Mayday Parade. You might have seen him out touring at some pretty big festivals recently. So him actually finding the time to sit down and talk with us is definitely a highlight for sure. So for everybody, this is Brooks Betts. So Brooks, thanks for taking the time to, jump on and talk with us for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. It's always cool to do any podcasts or interviews. I'm always open. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. How's everything on your side of the world right now? I know it's kind of a bit of a little bit quieter time before you guys jump back into touring and a couple more festivals. I know Derek has Riot Fest coming up. I guess that's a solo thing though. But how's everything on your side?
Right. Yeah, it's good. It's beautiful here. I'm at home with family. We're getting into what really feels like fall conditions, and we still got the pool open to heat it up a little bit before we jump in. But that's where we're at. I'm just enjoying being home in bed and do some lawn work after this.
Nice. What's the temperature there right now?
I didn't check, but it's it's going to be right around like 5 to 80 today. Real beautiful.
That is, yeah, that's actually really nice. Does it typically in your area, does it typically get, I guess it is September. I keep forgetting what month we're in too. That's crazy. Yeah. So that's actually a really good temperature for September. Yeah. No, but thank you so much again for jumping on for this. I'm really excited for this because, just seeing you guys live and seeing what you were playing live at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. The sound that you can get from Telecasters, and I knew when I saw you kind of just walking around, and needed to talk to you about it because it's super cool to see. But Sully, maybe you want to start us off then with the first question?
Yeah, I think it would be good to kind of go back and kind of find out what kind of started you playing, and like why did you start playing, and I guess why did you choose guitar as well?
I grew up on a lot of rock music. My parents listened to a lot of 80s, 70s rock. I was born in 85, so still rock was in full swing, right?
Yeah.
And as we got a little bit older, nobody really played music around me much. My grandmother, my mother's mother, played piano and played in the church and stuff, which was kind of around me, but we didn't really go to church very often, and so there wasn't like a constant. And she kind of maybe started me playing a little bit. Some of her family played as well, and they would try when I was really young, but it wasn't really going anywhere before I was 13. And then when I hit about that age, my brother just underneath me actually raised his hand and said, I'd like to play guitar, because my father's actually started kind of pushing it. He was like, it'd be really cool, if one of my sons would play. I'm one of 4 boys, and other below me, like I said, started lessons, and pretty quickly dropped off doing that. Somebody needed to fill in a gap, and I picked it up, and I just looked back. I learned from a guy, James Stanton, in Tallahassee, Florida, where I'm from. He was a blues player who grew up on the Mississippi Delta and learned to play from records by ear. It was a really cool place to start. Perspective on how to approach guitar. He was very big on blues, but it's a lot of what we do. And I just thought it was so cool. He would write out all his charts, by hand, pencil, and notebook every week, and he wouldn't give you like a printout. It wasn't like a printout, and he would write it down. I mean, I do the exact same thing now. Like I could show you. Like I don't know, do you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. That's cool.
I just handwritten,
yeah.
And I do the same thing. Like all my students, I write out everything by hand, and I write the same thing out several times a week. I think I'd have an archive or something, you know what I mean? But I liked how I like doing the archive, because sometimes it's different. Like you got to pencil in things differently, and you think of something differently, and it keeps you practiced. So anyway, I learned from him, and I think the first guitar I ever had was a PV Horizon 2.
Nice.
I don't even know if that's a good guitar or not. I don't know. And I played. We can go over this. Bounce in and out of the areas of my music. But the guitar got lost to Derek's house at some point. Derek's house would swallow things. I think I also lost an acoustic to Derek's house at one point. And our singer, right? And we grew up playing music together. It wasn't till about, it was maybe a year less after I started taking lessons that I met a drummer, Ben Woodsum, who rode my bus in middle school, who was playing in a Derek, and they were doing band practice at Derek's garage. It was just the two of them, and then they actually thought I was a bass player somehow, or maybe it got miscommunicated. So when I showed up, like Derek thought I was going to be playing bass, and yeah. But anyway, so we were like two guitarists. Derek was singing, and we had to have a bass player for a long time. Anyway, that's kind of like sidetracking, getting a little ahead of myself here. But I learned from this guy James, and yeah, I would learn to play 90s rock songs mostly. Every week he'd show me how to play another song that I brought in. He'd put the CD in, he'd listen to the song, and he would pick out everything that was happening by ear and write it all down, show me how it was.
Do you remember the first kind of riff you ever learned? I can remember mine. I remember learning Come As You Are by Nirvana. That was like the first riff I ever learned on guitar.
Yeah, that's a great one too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to a more like classic rock than I was 90s when I started.
Yeah.
And so my first was Stairway to Heaven. It's so boring and stereotypical.
I heard you. Yeah, I saw you showed that to Derek, and that's when he was like, "Oh, okay, he can play guitar."
Right. Yeah. Which is isn't that funny? Like you show up and you're like, okay, so you can play. And of course, even in middle school, like 7th grade, you're sitting there kind of like, okay, well, say you can play, show me something. You have to.
Got to whip out Stairway.
You had to audition, I guess.
That's so funny.
I would. At the garage, I had a practice amp, which is like like this big, like a foot by foot.
Yeah.
This typical box you bring, you carry around super easy with probably like a little like 6-inch speaker, who knows, 7-inch speaker in it maybe.
Yeah.
And I set it up on top of the dryer. There's the washer dryer back there in the garage.
That's so cool.
Simple.
So was Derek because I know Derek can play like guitar, or at least like rhythm and whatever, right? Was he the guitarist, then the drummer, then they brought you in as the bass player, or?
Yeah, they thought I was a bass player, like, so it was going to kind of. I mean, really, that's what you needed. They needed a bass player.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense if I did play bass, right? But I guess also, you're trying to complete like all the dynamics and elements of a band, but I guess just adding in a second guitarist worked good enough for the thing. We were covering songs anyway. We were covering all 90s rock.
Nice.
And, Derek there was a riding lawnmower in the garage, and it was on a push broom, so it had a heavy bass. That thing was leaned over the push mower. The microphone was taped to the top of the broom.
Oh, see, it just shows that whatever you have, you can make something out of it. You don't sometimes need the thousands of dollars worth of stuff. If you're passionate about it, just whatever you have kicking around at home.
Yeah, that's how we made it happen. He must have had that thing plugged into a practice amp that was
there. Yeah. So you started out with you said a PV guitar that got swallowed up somewhere in Derek's place.
Yeah, who knows.
So when you guys started to practice more, play more shows, what was kind of your next guitar? Because I'd imagine your next guitar would be something that you wouldn't have been like a hand-me-down or anything. Would have been something that you would have wanted.
Yeah, it was. It kind of lucked out, I guess, because I don't know that I was really asking for it. My mother bought me a U.S.-made Fender Telecaster standard.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
And it's the guitar that I still play today, and not out of nostalgia, out of sound. I try to find, and that is, so I had that guitar, pretty quickly after, probably in my first year.
Is it still stuck? Sorry.
Yeah. I at one point I did switch out the bridge pickup, be a hot rail, and I luckily held on to the single coil pickup and I later that was unnecessary for the humbucker sound. Put the single coil back in, and I was like, yeah, that's. Don't know. I mean, there's a reason for both, but I mean, Alex on the other end plays a Les Paul with humbuckers, so and as the yin yang for me to be playing a single coil.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That was the thing when I saw you playing a Telly, and I was like, I amazed of the sound that you're getting from, in my mind, a stock Telly, right? Like it's you get a great tone out of it. So I'd imagine, yeah, using that, it's probably a pretty good studio guitar then too.
It is, and I used it on most all our recordings. I think more recently I've gotten a little bit more like, whatever. You can sculpt sound in the studio, so I'm not overly worried about flying with that guitar. And the more you fly with it, the more to running it over, which they did over one of my other guitars, and luckily was not this one. But
jeez,
not to call Delta out, really, they all equally suck. But the guitar, that Telly was I got when I was 13, was in the year, it was 1998. I'm not doing my math, but this is what I've been saying forever, so I hope I'm not wrong. 98. And so I assumed forever that 98 was the year the guitar was made. And I didn't really know how to like look at serial numbers for the longest time. It wasn't until later that I figured it has the N for the 90s, and then the next digit is 1. So I pointed out to me, that's not a 98, that's a 91. And then I'm sitting there thinking, well, where was this thing sitting for 7 years? It was purchased brand new, and I'm pulling stickers off of it, off of the, sticker, a standard like sticker off of the pick guard, in 98. Where do they keep these guitars for 10 years?
Yeah, that's I
haven't dug to figure out that, or maybe it was kind of like a weird fluke thing, but I don't think so. I think I've talked to other people who have similar situations where they're like, you thought the guitar would be built the year I bought it, but to find out it's actually older.
I guess sometimes with like transportation, and sometimes it could be like maybe in a warehouse for a certain period of time and everything.
Right. I mean, how long is it sitting in a warehouse?
Well, that's just like I've seen like a year or so for serial numbers being off in the stores, but 11 years is or not 11. I guess it would be 7 years. Still pretty wild though. Maybe they did have it in the warehouse and they were like, oh my gosh, we got to send these out. Regardless, though, really cool.
Back then, when you kind of first got your telly and stuff, what was your kind of amp kind of situation? What were you kind of running back then?
For the longest time that I have then, I'm trying to think, because I don't want to like mix it up, because there was so many different variations. My father would buy stuff from pawn shops.
Nice. Gear
that didn't even make sense. Like at one point I was playing out of like a PA speaker that was really a PA sub. And it was a 15-inch speaker, and I was playing through, I think, a bass amp, and it was probably terrible, and then I think it was something 70. It was like a Marshall combo solid state amp, and I feel like it was something, I can't remember, I should have looked it up, the lettering, something's, I don't know. Oh no, maybe it was, I'm gonna mix it up. Okay, so anyway, let me not guess, right? It was a combo amp of some sort, Marshall standard. Then that slowly evolved, and I got a JCM 2000.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. And I believe I had there was the D one, there was like the double channel one, and then there was the triple channel one. I had the triple channel one, T something. I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I had you had your distortion and your crunch.
Yeah.
And that was also, I feel like that was like a combo solid state, and it was like it wasn't straight solid, which was kind of like the evolution into understanding that amps don't sound great if they're just straight. And of course that's depending on the style. Like the Deftones sound great, but it's like I feel like you had to have that rectification.
Yeah. So, and you were playing through Marshall, like when you got the 2000, you were playing from a Marshall cab, or was it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was playing. Through like the slant cab. Was it
1960s?
I was gonna say 1968, which I don't have anymore. Now I play through like a Mesa standard cab, but I might be getting ahead of myself. Timeline, to throwing the timeline here instead of jumping around. But yeah, that was that ACM 2000 was like kind of the go-to consumer amp for anybody playing in a band for a long time. That was kind of getting into high school, like 9th grade. I think by the time maybe I did have that amp, and that was certainly everybody had it. We would play. There was a lot of hardcore bands around us, especially in our high school, bands that we looked up to, and that was kind of
well, that's definitely like if you're in the hardcore scene too. That is the crunch and distortion you get from those things it's pretty loud. Especially the triple channel too.
Yeah.
I don't really know many people that have actually had the triple channel Marshall one too. So that's cool. So when, obviously and still in school, when was it that you guys went out on your first like tour?
It was right after high school. I had a communication tech class, which I took because of it was like you could use Photoshop and print t-shirts. There was a screen press.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
And
nice.
whole photography, part of the course that you were supposed to do, which I did like the bare minimum in photography. And he was just really like cool about whatever you're into, like do that, follow that. And because he knew that all I wanted to do was screen printing and understanding that, he was like, just do the bare minimum on photos, and then you do that. You just do your thing over there and just enjoy and have fun learning. We were printing band t-shirts in high school out of that class. But what I'm getting to is that in that class, you could also like there was so many. I wouldn't skip class, but like if I could get out of certain objects, I would go down there to his class and finish printing shirts, pressing shirts, or working on designs. But then I was also booking our first tours out of that classroom on those computers.
Nice. Oh, wow.
That were supposed to be Photoshop, but I was doing a little bit of both, and was doing that through a couple different things. Like, there was a site called byofl.org, which is like that site's, I'm sure, is gone now, but it was like a whole gloss. It was like a whole collection of venues and promoters, other things too, labels that you could send promo kits out to and contact. I was using that to basically get us started. That and a musician's atlas to get out of a bookstore. Musician's atlas had tons of board. Probably not.
So at the time, then you were kind of essentially kind of managing yourselves and kind of tour managing yourselves, because I know your first EP was kind of without any label support, wasn't it?
Yeah, we would follow the year before we did that album, and I should also say this, that all those tours that I was booking in high school were for a band before Parade, but me and Derek and others were in. Jeremy, bass player, was in, and but then that was Defining Moment, and then we followed Warped Tour with Defining Moment. We had self-released an EP, able to make a decent money doing that. So then we kind of took some of that money, pulled it back into Mayday Parade, did the same thing. So we self-funded Tales Told by Dead Friends, some of that money from the first band, and then we got a lot of more traction, obviously, with Mayday Parade, and that self-funded EP eventually got us to signing with Fearless Records, and then Fearless Records basically re-released.
So the when you first went out on tour after high school, did any of your gear kind of change up with it now that you're touring? Was there anything that you upgraded?
It was I'm trying to think if there was nothing super special for me. Nothing changed for a long time. Trying to even think of pedals. Like, I think eventually I started adding in like MXR pedals, like a couple carbon copies, which I still use today. And at one point we were touring with All Time Low, probably our first tour with All Time Low, and don't ask me the year but it was early. And we were playing small venues. We played small room. It was underground, and I had to use Jack's cabinet because it was not enough room on stage. It was tiny in backline. I just borrowed his cabinet. He left it up there, and it was a Mesa standard cabinet, and that's why I switched to Mesa. The sound out of that so much better than I did. But again, I might be to myself, because at this point I've also switched to an Orange 8030, which is actually by me now on the side, but that was kind of my setup that evolved out from that ACM 2000 Orange 30 head. Orange 8030 ran with that Marshall for a while until I switched to the Mesa. There's now I play. It's different now, but I don't want to get ahead of me.
So for the Orange, I mean, yeah, like, so with touring with All Time Low, with the Mesa cab, did you after the Marshall was right into the Orange? So obviously Orange amps are phenomenal, but what made you go to an Orange compared to like a Mesa or anything else at that time?
Yeah, I mean, the Mesas are definitely a little bit harsher and more gained up sort of thing. I mean, they're all do the same. Mesas are, my opinion, more built for like a metal.
Yeah.
They're certainly more scooped, where the oranges are. I mean, maybe these are generalizations, but my understanding, feeling that the orange that are mid range, which super important, especially with a single coil telly. I'm not. You could imagine if I started running a single coil telly, too harsh up on the top, what a sound you'd get out of that. With the orange, it certainly complements the telly sound in the out single coil. I also bought that orange head off of a producer that we recorded a Tales Told by Dead Friends with. We also did Valdosta EP, Lee Dies, in Valdosta, Georgia, and he had this orange head. I'm not sure why he wanted to get rid of it. I recorded with it, and he was selling it, so I bought it from him. I bought it for, I don't know. I could be wrong. I wanted it for like $1,100 back then.
No. So I guess you kind of just used it and like fell in love with it then, I guess.
Yeah, and I still do love it, and I do prefer its sound. I prefer its sound over anything else that I've ever really played through.
So
it had some issues recently, and I had to take it in the shop, but it's running beautifully again.
So were you still just having your American telly at the time? Was there anything else added from a guitar perspective?
I kept trying to search for another telly that sounded just like. I've done that, and still am doing that successfully. I even have another 91 telly over here next that it sounds more like a country twangy. It doesn't sound like old one, and maybe it's just because maybe the trick is I need to take the pickups out and dip them in salt water for a day. You know what I mean, and let them.
Yeah.
I need to synthesize the sweat effect. Years of sweat on that single coil pickup, because it would get to the point, a lot of shows, especially early day shows, when you're in sweat boxes, playing these small rooms. I mean, you're just drenched in sweat, and I sweat a lot. I should have been wearing sweatbands, but I wasn't like, I don't know, for some reason that was never cool to me. It wasn't like the look, or like it almost felt kind of like weird and lame to wear them. So I just wouldn't, and I would just sweat all over my pickup, and to the point that the pickup would start to sound muffled and dark, which I didn't like. I didn't like it going darker, but it would happen all the time. But then, also I started picking up some Ernie Ball reflex guitars, and the Ernie Balls is such a cool company. They've been so good to us, and they give us strings, and I love Ernie Balls forever. I mean, I played those since I was 13 anyway.
Yeah.
But I would play. But I would play like their regular, or started with the pink pack, the super slinkies, I think, which I don't use. And I would use the regular slinkies, and then later, especially because we play a half step down in some songs on record, move to the not even sling stick gate, basically. So because we had that relationship, and I would, we use their strings, I was like, I should start playing some of their guitars. I did with some, like, love-hate, it was cool because I was using a humbucker pickup, and it would work for certain songs, and I would try to make it fit, and I like to represent it when I can, but ultimately I just keep falling right back to the Fender, and it almost seems lame. I don't know, you guys speak to a lot of people about gear, so you gotta let me know. I mean, I feel like people who are really into gear, they like to switch things up and get into all kinds of different things. And me, I'm just trying to get another guitar that sounds just like the old thing from 13 years. Or I'm sorry, when I was 13 years.
No, that I hear that all the time, right? If you like something, if it sounds good, you want to replicate that as either a backup or as a secondary. 100%. Like, that's why a lot of musicians have 5 of the same exact guitars, just in different colors. If you like it, you like it. That's the main thing. It's the sound you get. That is funny though with the sweat. I'm sure that does have a lasting effect on it, right? Like, I have a pickup or a guitar that it's an Invader pickup, and it's coated with like sweat, and it's like salt water. It's so funny, but it does sound different than another guitar that I have with an Invader in it. So that is It's cool to think of that. Just something as small as that, it definitely affects everything. You wouldn't think, but it does.
Yeah, I think every like you were saying, you've tried to have like other kind of 91 tellies. And I've kind of on my own kind of pursuit of tone. Like no guitar ever really sounds the same. Even if you get like the same model, you never really get the same kind of tone and sound. Even though it's supposed to be the same model, every guitar has got its own little kind of like nuances and characteristics. It's interesting how it can be so different.
So you were saying that
for sure.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I mean, it could be capacitors, it could be all these other little elements in there, which I've tried to, with my guitar tech, or at least, Nick Verger, who was our guitar tech for a good long time. He's with Pierce the Veil right now, but he still works with us in and out. Try and troubleshoot some things.
So you use you told us what strings you use. What kind of picks are your kind of go-to?
I use I guess I should the gauge, right? Whatever the Dunlop, whatever I think it's standard, right? Don't they kind of like use the colors signify like certain gauges?
Yeah,
they do. Yeah, green's pretty heavy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Is that like 0.8 something?
I think so.
I believe
yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I just been using them forever, and yeah, they're pretty thick. Our bass player uses, I think, the gauge above it, blue. I would assume that's probably kind of, if that's a color choice of his own, or if that's kind of their standard color. With the gauge type thing. I'm just below him, and it works pretty well. I enjoy it. I suppose it's probably good for rhythm players like myself. Maybe not as great for. I know Alex, our other guitarist, our lead guitarist. He's trying to dial back his gauge and get a little thinner with the picks. I'd be wrong. I don't want to misspeak about it, but I know either which way. I know he's experimenting with his gauge. So he's lighter. He's lighter than I am. Might have one. Whatever the orange pick is.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't know if that's again standard.
It's more of a standard one,
right,
I think. Yeah.
That's like the 60 in it.
0.6. Yeah, I believe the oranges are 0.6.
It's funny, we all have different preferences.
So you have had, the two tellies now is like, or how many tellies are you up to on the touring rig?
Two. I use two different tellies. One is just a newer standard US standard telly. It's out of the four that I have 4 different tellies. It's the one that's closest to the sound of my old one, and again, it's a new telly, so I don't know. Just maybe luck of the draw sometimes. But I have to roll the tone knob back to touch. If you're all the way open, I suppose. With the most high end you can get on it, I probably up it back like 2 notches. Talking about 1 to 10 live, and I try to do that. And if sometimes I get handed the guitar when we're doing guitar switches on stage or whatever, and I forget and whatever, but it's not a big deal. Like that can be controlled a little bit out front. So
you like the one that I think that when I saw it was like one of those American, like an American Professional. So it's like the blue, like it goes into like a darker, and then the black pickguard, I believe.
Right, you're talking about my guitar specifically?
Yes.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
So that's the one. Yeah.
Yes, you were referencing. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I've come closest to with it. No, I do have another one over here too that Delta did run over at one point, and I have the replacement neck because it's a Corona, California made guitar. I still have the replacement neck here that I have not put back on it. Actually being told, I've never heard how that guitar sounds. It was sent to me for a music video for Red Taste Blue.
Oh,
it's Red Taste Blue from Fender. They're sweet enough to up with guitars, and never got to play the thing. It was for a music video. I mocked it, obviously, played it. Music video where you're not really playing. Plugged up it to an amp anyway, and on the way home, the flight, it was sitting up on top of the. I could see it out there. I could see it like when they bring the trolley around or whatever with the carts. Baggage, I could see that they threw it up on top, and it wasn't in a hard case. It was in a soft case inside of the box that it was shipped in with styrofoam.
Okay. Yeah.
Typically, that should be good enough. You know what I mean? It should have been sturdy enough, barring it getting run over. I don't even think a hard case would have saved that, honest. And it came out on the carousel, and you could see the tire marks across the box like a cartoon.
Oh,
like but so actually, I do have another one in the bag over here that maybe I should put the neck back on, and actually maybe it is closer to my.
Play it up. Yeah. Is it the same neck?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's it's the the replacement neck that they
Yeah.
sent.
Mm.
Yeah, it should be the same neck. I got it specifically from them for that guitar as a replacement. And then I do have a Strat of Rico that I got. It's pretty cool.
So for
Not a standard, like a little bit. It's like a signature model. I don't even know. Hold on, let me look.
yeah, go grab it.
I didn't want to be. I
Oh,
don't want to be
shit.
like too. I don't want to be
Ooh.
too greedy with it, but it's certainly a nicer.
That's so cool.
Oh, it
I
is.
gotta look back up about what the hit maker. I don't know. Oh, there it is. Nile Rodgers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's got the mirrored
But-
pick guard, isn't it?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I playing it like to an amp. Kind of wish I just got the standard. Doesn't quite do that thing. Doesn't quite do that standard, that typical
Strat.
like middle neck pickup sound that a Strat should have.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Also, it's not like I've had enough time with it, and I haven't done enough demoing with it. Because that's what I do a lot of at home. That's why I have a lot of gear sitting here, is because I like doing demos at home. But and making them sound great instead of just playing a guitar and a vocal and you go. I like to sit and kind of engineer on Pro Tools, but I haven't fleshed out what it is that's great about that guitar, why people like it yet.
So, are you still doing the Orange and Mesa live, or is it now? Have you switched over to a more, digital?
The world's gone digital, right?
Yeah.
We tried hybrids of that too. We've done all sorts of cool things. Palmers. Maybe we always referred to them as the Palmers, right? Like there was for a while there we would run mics, then we would also run a DI signal that went from the amp to the Palmer, went to front of house, right?
Yeah.
And if sound guy, our sound guy is a lot more control. That was still loud though, especially for a lot of situations, like blaring amps on stage were loud. Alex loves that. I love it too. Alex, I think, still wants to go back to that sort of thing. Me, I'm a little bit of like, well, whatever. We're past that now kind of thing, where I'm so used to where we are now, where we've gone to Kemper, no cabinets at all. Which I should also say, there was like the Orange through the Palmer thing where we were still miking cabinets and they were facing you on stage and screaming into microphones at times, or screaming at fans right on one side of the stage, depending on where you were. You're hearing more of Alex or more of me. That evolved into no cabinets at all. Just going. Well, sorry, it went to the Kemper with the cabinets.
Yeah.
It went to just the Kemper, no cabinet. And it's a world of difference for monitoring in your ears, like because we're using in ears, molds, that pop in, and it's so much cleaner. All you got to really worry about is drums at that point.
Yeah. Sounds like a record then, doesn't it? When it's so clean, kind of with everything going digital.
It helps. Those in ears are never great. Maybe we don't have the. I'm still using Ultimate ears.
That's what I got.
I think I've got a pretty decent. I think it's like the 8 drivers. I just got them repaired. They broke on me recently, and I was having to use Shure backups, which wasn't the worst thing in the world for a little bit while I shipped them off to get replaced. They just came back this week to me. I'll have them for the festival in Vegas when we were young. Thank goodness, because I want to be super comfortable for that show. It's going to be such a big show. But anyway, the playing through DI more so, everything being clean in DI, and even the bass, coming through just front of house, and you're feeling it in the subs and the floor. It's a much better way to go live, in my opinion. Love it, and gives them complete. And they're manipulating at the board back there too. So whatever you were doing with microphones on stage was fine, but there was no way it was super consistent because it was never consistent in my ears. It couldn't have been consistent in a house, or you're constantly having to dial tones anyway.
Yeah, that's the beauty, isn't it? When you kind of profile your amp on a Kemper, the sound is set, isn't it? It's not like when you take an amp and a cabinet into different venues, the temperature's different, the size is different, the crowd size is different. Everything kind of, when it's analog, gets affected, doesn't it? But digital, you kind of capture in that sound, so every time it's consistent.
Definitely, yeah. It's just so much more consistent. And still, there's things that change, and it's so funny because we've been lucky to have very consistent crew and sound guys over the years, but things have gotten a little bit crazy recently, and we've had to switch around. Not that we've fired anybody. I don't mean it's just not like that. What actually has happened is crew actually gets to a point where they're so good that they actually need to move on to a bigger band than us, which is pretty cool and great for your crew to be able to do that. But what I'm getting at is with the you'll be speaking to your different sound guys that we've had recently, and you're like, well, something seems to have changed in the ears, and they're like, nothing's changed. Digitally, they might be right. Like maybe through the whatever it is, it's a digital app that we use, and I can control it on my phone. So nothing should change day to day. But I swear it still will. Some things will be different, and I can't figure out why that is, even in the digital world.
So in your profile for your new setup, is it all kind of mimicking that Orange Mesa combo, or is it something that you've kind of changed a little bit?
I blindly kind of will switch the profiles depending on the part. Like I've got everything sort of mapped out now on MIDI changes that kind of runs with our
nice
on Ableton that's running along with ClickTrack and everything. Kind of built out sessions that way, which has gotten me in trouble, and I'll explain that too. But it has its pitfalls for sure. Depending on a computer to change your tones for you. But what I've started with is like a JCM 800 tone that Zach and Ken, the producers that we've worked with for a lot of albums, including A Lesson Room, most of our work. They did some Kemper profiles, and the best sound, the closest sound I could get to what my setup was previous was a JCM tone that they, the stock stuff that comes with it isn't. Like if you bought a Kemper and you didn't upload, or I don't know, any new tones or like custom tones that you had built, or probably preferably that somebody who knows what they're doing has built, you'd be very disappointed with the Kemper sounds. But anyway, they had a ton of stuff that they handed over to us, and their JCM model line from and then past that. What I was trying to get at too, past that, when I'm building out different sounds at different songs, that's like my go-to. But I'll almost roll through what else is it, and I pick half the time some Vox tones that I've picked out of there. I know they've created.
That's good.
So you kind of have like every song will have a specific kind of patch. So you're not just kind of running like one distortion patch the whole way through your set. It's kind of switches between amps as you kind of go through, depending on the song's like need.
A little bit. I mean, choruses are pretty much always the same. Like all the big choruses, like big heavy rock choruses, are going to be that JCM 800 sound. Yeah. And then when it dials back for a verse or something, it might be that JCM tone with the gain pulled down. But it might also be like some other random amp that I scrolled across that day when I needed it, and it worked, and it's great until I fix it again where I want to.
Nice. So
it's mostly I kind of have like a bass setup of that JCM, like clean distortion, be and paste that for every new song that I'm putting together, and go in and I edit stuff and switch things. To go like, oh, you know what? I really like that clean delay thing, and you be the anchor. I'm gonna pull it in for this other song and set up new files.
That's cool how this I'm always still so impressed with like how the digital age is, like going from these U-Haul trucks with huge cabinets and all these things to a little box that kind of does majority of it and then some, right? Like it's so crazy to me to think of what you can do with these things. It's unreal.
It is crazy. And now it seems it was crazy because like you had these Line 6 pods, right, for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was like early 2000s. I don't think that was 9. I could be wrong. Maybe there was early models that I'm not thinking of or I forgot about. The Line 6 kind of feels like the pioneer in that. My memory of the earwork, and it never sounded right. Like I mean, I'll admit, like I had a Zoom pedal back when I was first starting.
Yeah.
And that was cool. It had literally everything you'd ever want on there, but none of it was great.
Yeah, I had the same.
Or like, right, like the Zoom 505, right?
Yeah.
The Zoom 505. Yeah. I had that thing, and then that evolved into like a Boss a metal zone pedal. Metal
Yeah.
zone, I think. That was the big, like everybody had that pedal. I should have specified that. You know what? I didn't say that earlier, and I'm sorry. That was a huge part of my developing sound. And so many people who were beginning guitar had a metal zone, right? The one with the 4-band EQ on it.
Yeah.
And I forgot about that actually. And then but what am I getting at?
The Line 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I guess by the time I realized what a Line 6 quad was, I would already kind of moving past that digital pedal sound, or at least I was so distracted by the cool colors that Boss made with their pedals
Mm-hmm.
that I just wanted Boss pedals, and I had those at one point.
The rainbow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but then if you get moving on, like once you got past really thinking that solid state was cool and you didn't really like that digital distorted sound, and I was on to like tube amps and stuff, it was almost like you don't touch a pod, that kind of sucks. And it wasn't till Kemper with digital distortions that you were like, oh, looks like technology's catching up.
Yeah.
And then now you have the
Cortex as well.
the Cortex, which I think is becoming now the standard over Kemper, and I think a lot of that is that sounds I think they're pretty close, right? But it's small. I mean, like if we're considering moving to that, just because when you fly, so easy, just good case.
I was going to say the problem with Kemper. I know they've released they've released new models that are the same software and everything that are in smaller packages, but the original Kemper is it's over 10 years old, isn't it? So it's pretty old technology now, whereas the Cortex is only a few years old. So they've definitely got the edge on having the newer kind of circuit board and technology in there.
Yeah, and you probably know more about it than I do. No, I don't dive deep into. I just know that they're very similar for what I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Years. No, I don't. But of course, like who knows what profiles I'm in. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like I was saying, like when you bought a Kemper with stock profiles on it, and you would throw it away. I would throw it away. No, but who knows if what I've heard with Axe Effects, if that's really good stuff or kind of stock stuff.
There's a lot of options now. Even like Fender just released a new one. Like there's
Tone
a lot.
Master.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like there's a lot of options out there now. As before, it was just that Line 6, and then it was so it does give you a lot of options. But I think it really just comes down to the device itself will do kind of everything. It's the tones you're going to get out of it and the sounds you're going to get out of it. So that's why it is all personal preference. People get very defensive of whatever one they own. They usually defend. They usually defend it to the death. So
yeah, of course, yeah, because you got to be right.
Exactly.
Everybody's got to be right
exactly
all the time.
Yeah, just give me that rainbow board of Boss pedals, and that's all I need in life.
Yeah,
that's all I need in life.
Yeah. I sold them all. I wish I still had them. I think all I have is a blues driver now.
Those things are still like, even with all these digital stuff, a good blues driver is
solid.
It's solid. Yeah, it's so good.
It's fun.
So you have some
still use it for.
Yeah. So you have some festivals and stuff coming up. What's you just as Mayday Parade, you guys just released a single not too long ago, and then you have the single that's on the new Disney album. But what's kind of coming up in terms of, is there any new music coming up for Mayday?
Yeah, we've got plans. Our fans know that we're always working.
Yeah.
Never really have break, hiatus, no breaks. I can't. I don't even think of I guess pandemic times was the only time we ever got a break, and it was kind of like, oh wow, I guess at least it took a COVID to make us sit down and chill for a little bit. But we're always working. We just got done with Sad Summer Tour festival, and we've been in the studio. We obviously had recorded tracks before that because we had the new single that we released. Got other 6 songs, I think, originals out of that. I keep losing track because I keep like with the Disney song.
Yeah.
While like the bonus track in there that always messed with my head and the numbers of what we recorded. But yeah, we had 8 songs, 7 originals, and then Disney song. And we're gonna slow release some stuff. We've got plans. We've got big plans to put a lot of material together over the next year, and release that in a way that is useful for today's world with formats and stuff where people just kind of burn through music. Hard to release full lengths, but we're going to try and kind of merge the two worlds of giving people fresh music, fresh singles, while giving them things like vinyl releases around collections, and that have good reason to do it, in today's world, as opposed to just viewing everything through a digital lens. I work that around our touring, which we'll do a lot of, as always, next year. And we did so much support over the last, looking back a year from today, we're doing so much support touring that we didn't really get to headline.
Yeah.
And which is a good problem to have, but it gives us good reason to set up for a really solid U.S. headliner now, get that going.
Yeah, I'm excited. Come to the UK and Canada as well, right?
Well, thanks to the pandemic, you guys are supposed to. I live in Winnipeg in Canada, and so you guys. I was excited you guys were coming finally, because it was the first time I was going to see you guys, and then the pandemic hit, canceled, and sucks. So I'll make sure to venture out. Even if you don't come here, I'll make sure to venture out where you guys are. Cause, that'd be cool.
That's right. That was right around when we released It Is What It Is.
Yeah.
And not even going to name for that. It is tour, and then that we had to cancel. You
did touch on the making of the Disney album, or the song on the Disney album. So how did that all come to be? Like, I've always wondered stuff like this. Like, did Disney give you guys a bunch of songs? You guys just pick what song you want to do? Was it, hey, we want to cover this song? Like, how does the whole thing come to be?
Yeah, they came to us and other bands about it. It was their idea, and that's how Disney kind of to Disney. We forever had done like the Pop Goes Punk, or the different renditions of that, Fearless Records, and we had always talked about, why don't we do like a those Disney, sort of thing, and we could never, like, it was never going to be feasible. Like, you weren't going to pitch to Disney. You weren't going to be like, hey Disney, we want to put together a compilation of your songs. Can we have the rights? And they would, like, they're not going to go. I don't think they're going to go for anything unless they came up with the idea. I could be wrong about that. It's so funny how we talked about that for so many years, and then Disney decided to do that, which is so cool. And they gave us a lot of free reign. I can't remember, but essentially the email that came through of like what you can and can't do was far more like just pick a song and we'll let you know, move it kind of thing. There was a very, very short list of you can't do these songs, and I didn't really dig into why, but I would imagine that some of the songs that were on the list of like you can record were songs that had already been covered. You know what I mean? That had already been given rights to cover, so it wasn't like that was the barrier. I think it maybe had it had more to do with rights, like for the writers and who held rights for certain things. Maybe there was a handful, like 10, maybe 2 hands full of tracks that people had certain rights to that Disney didn't have complete control of or something, and so those were off limits. But overall, you could just be like, yeah, we want to do this song, and they were going to give you the okay. And it was a Derek idea to do Remember Me. Great idea. I mean, I was throwing out stuff like The Sea and for like Little Mermaid, which is cool. Like I love those songs. My daughter loves those songs. I listened to it this morning. Of course, Coco's a great movie, and it's a musician's movie. Yeah. So it just made perfect sense. It was almost like too easy to cover a song like that.
That was definitely a great song for you guys to cover on it. The whole album, though, from front to back, like,
it's great.
Such a good album. Like I said, I'm a pretty big Disney fan, so the fact that, like, when I first heard this was coming out, I was like, there's no way that Disney was the one that said, yeah, let's do this. And when I heard they were the ones, it was like, seriously, like, it's because like you said, like, everybody's covered Disney songs, like Newfound Glory, Yellow. Everyone's done so many covers of Disney songs that it's great to see it all. Or new songs anyways compiled into one. It was really cool.
Yeah, we're happy to be on it. So it's actually it's like an honor to know that it's something, a nostalgic art, like a household name, destiny, or however you want to view it, or just like this like worldwide, like American entity that is like in everybody's house. It's on the tip of everybody's tongue. Is like, there's enough to put Mayday Parade of bands that they would care to hear cover their
Yeah.
material.
Super cool.
And crazy. You're like, it's like, wow. And it's not a Grammy or anything, but it's
It's a big deal.
it's a
I'd
high
take
honor.
it 100%. That's so cool. So kind of moving away from that, when like I was saying at that festival, when I started kind of walking around, we talked a little bit about, you do guitar lessons, and which is super cool in itself. I would kill to have, when I was younger, getting guitar lessons, to have, one of my idols being able to teach me how to play guitar. But one thing that was really cool that you said that you do is help people from a songwriting perspective and teaching people how that works. If you maybe want to touch a little bit on that, because I think that is super cool that you do.
Yeah, I try to offer a little bit of everything. So I teach currently, I think certainly the youngest that I teach currently is 12-year-old. But I work the way up through, people my age, do everything from the beginnings. This kid knows 12. He doesn't even know how to tune a guitar yet, but we're still able to get things across. We can take extra time with him. Started from the very get-go, understanding basics all the way through technique and theory with a lot of my clients. And then what I try to do is I try to get everybody to a point where we're working on, like, that's kind of my goal. It's not like, so like what you're touching on is that I write with people, which I write. Yeah, that's I love doing that, and that's some of the best, the most fun that I have in teaching is sitting one-on-one with somebody for an hour over Zoom and hashing out something that they are proud of, and then I can show them the techniques that I use to troubleshoot areas, work with them on the things that they don't love, because it's just your opinion, really, like what's good versus bad. So I try not to ever, and certainly because I know I was bad. I mean, like I was certainly bad to my standards and probably to most people's standards when you start playing and writing music. So I try to help them understand that, like, we're not trying to write a gold single right here. We're trying to get you to understand that where you are is good. And we're going to get better, and every song that we work on gets better and better and better. But I do that by trying to get people started early. So once we get through the necessary tool bag of theory, I try to take that along with them into the writing, because that's the whole point to me of understanding and learning theory in general. I mean, you could use it cover music and obviously to communicate and jam music with other musicians, which is also the point. But I try to tell them like, look, if you understand theory better, then we can take that as a tool bag and use it and apply it every day to what you're doing, melody-wise, chord-wise, song-wise, structure-wise, arrangement-wise, to create better songs. Understand what you're doing and what's available to you as you're doing it. So that very quickly, I'm trying to take people from theory into songwriting, and I'm always very surprised at like how good these people, these clients that I'm working with are at like creating music quickly and not understanding that what they're doing is pretty good. They just need a little bit of direction of like rounding some things out, or help with lyrics, or help with melody, or how to find melody, or how to find a chord progression that makes more sense with the melody that they've written in their head that actually is good. The chords they're playing don't work. That's my goal, and I try and encourage people to sing quickly, even if they have a terrible voice. I have a terrible voice. They write music with that terrible voice, and the songs come out great in the end.
It's a really like refreshing approach, because I kind of taught myself, and I taught myself very badly. But if I ever kind of had guitar lessons, I wish I would have someone like you. Because the thing that I noticed, like when I was kind of coming up and starting to learn to play, is you'd always like find these people that would like just want to be the fastest shredder, or they just all this like kind of crazy lead stuff. And I was always kind of more focused on the songwriting aspect, and there was never really much of that you could kind of find like way back when to try and learn. Do you know what I mean? You had to kind of really fumble your way through for kids to have someone like yourself to be able to teach them these tools and be able to kind of develop their songwriting so early on, I think is so incredible.
Yeah, that's kind of like, that is the whole thing, right? Because you think of taking guitar lessons, you usually are thinking of like scales and, you know, lead riffs and, you know, getting maybe you are thinking about jazz guitar and things like that, depending on what it is you're interested in, understanding of blues and that sort of thing, which is all fine and well. But like you said, yeah, that's kind of what you're going to get at most lessons with most teachers.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people who have written songs that go on albums that get heard by people who consume music and enjoy it, and then also on a very regular basis work around a group of guys. Like my whole band writes. Everybody in the band writes music, and we all compete to get our songs on records. And even if it's not our song, we're also working on aspects of the song to make them better, you know. So we're learning from each other, and we're learning through our experiences. There's not a lot of teachers who have that 20 years of experience of working in rooms writing with one, a band that has success, but two, with different producers who have different perspectives, and also working in co-write situations, you know, with certain artists or even other writers. We've gone through those experiences. We don't love that. You know, co-writing for what we do doesn't work super well for Mayday Parade, so we haven't done a ton of that. But you do get those other perspective people while doing those sessions, you know. And that's also the other thing, I guess I should say. Like what I'm doing is essentially a co-write situation. I'm not taking any rights. People just pay me for my time, and what I put on the table is theirs to take. But because I don't enjoy the co-write sessions that I've done with Mayday Parade and other writers, which has been limited in our career, but Anywhere But Here is a great example of that. There was a decent amount of that in that experience. It doesn't work so well for our style. But bringing it back to what I'm saying here is, because of those experiences with co-write sessions, I try to be different with the people I'm working with. It's their song, and then I'm giving you ammo and ideas and perspective and more tools to run and create what you see be best, not what I say is best. And so therefore we're changing your lyric here, we're changing the melody here, or passion.
Yeah, adapting to, I guess, everybody, because everybody's going to have a different approach for songwriting too. A 12-year-old different than a 30-year-old, I think. So that's so cool. Like it's a completely different value getting lessons that way compared to traditional, like you were saying, scales and arpeggios, all this other things that, you know, a kid might not be really interested in. He just wants to play his favorite Green Day or Mayday or whatever song, right? Like that's the goal. It's not really of who's the fastest shredder. So I think that's really cool. So how would people get in contact to sign up?
You could just, to make it easy, I would just go through my Instagram account, and there's numbers on there. Okay. You know, at least right, my Instagram, but it's Brooks Mayday. You know, or I think the number is like, I have to look at the number I feel like that's like a tough one to like over the phone, right? I mean, no.
Yeah, we can put links and everything too in the bio for it. For sure.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Just they'll see the number on my Instagram, or they can contact me on Instagram. So
before we kind of let you go, just a couple of rapid fire questions, if that's okay. So first, what's your next guitar that you would want to purchase?
I just want to try and find that 91 Tele that works that matches the old one. I mean, you say that's the first thing that comes to mind, right? I guess because we've been talking about it. But really, what I really need, I need a standard Les Paul. You know, I just need like, because especially for at home demoing and having fun recording, and I do try to track some bands. I have some local bands that I've worked with, and I need a Les Paul in my little home studio to be the yin yang to tellies that I have stacked over here.
Who was your biggest musical inspiration growing up that made you pick up a guitar?
It was Slash, for sure.
Nice.
Which is funny. Because I don't love Les Pauls, but I thought I would, and then.
What's your favorite song to play live?
It's actually really tough. We were playing at 12 through 15. 12 through 15 is a great song. I love that song.
What's the hardest song for you to play live?
Remember, I'm playing rhythm, so nothing's too crazy. But I suppose a song like "You Be the Anchor," that song always scares the crap out of me because I got to play the beginning by myself, and I'm like, don't screw it up, don't screw it up.
If you could have your own signature model, what would it be?
It'd definitely be a Tele Standard. I would just get Fender to figure out what made my guitar so great.
How did it feel when Alex Cooper from the podcast Call Me Daddy said that you guys were her favorite band growing up?
Oh, that was so cool. I think it's great when people kind of give shout outs or can, like, because I mean she obviously has such a big audience, and I think it's so cool when they use a story from their life, right?
Yeah.
In their podcast and in their show, and they can shed light towards something, and not only like give and relate to fans of Mayday, as a group, but like do it in a way where I think she sort of intentionally wanted to give props, and I think I really appreciated that.
Sully, any rapid fire that you still want to ask?
I think that's everything. I think we maybe I appreciate all the time you've given us. I know I appreciate it's been a fairly long talk, but we really do appreciate the time you've
very much
given us, and a very great insight into the gear and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys. I enjoyed it actually.
One last thing before we always do it with our guests, we always ask our guests, is there one thing in arm's reach on your desk that's something cool?
Cool. I don't know if I have anything cool. I got a pair of drumsticks.
Nice.
That's it. I don't have anything cool. I got my kids earmuffs.
Oh, nice.
So if we're gonna play the drums back here behind me, we got these things hanging.
They're set
now. Oh, I don't have anything cool. Maybe is this lamb chop? I don't know. It's like a lamb. There's lamb chop measuring.
Oh, I
love that.
That's cool.
I used to measure my mic distance.
That's cool.
For phase issues.
That's awesome. Oh, that's cool.
That.
One of the best.
It's over. Yeah.
Well, like Sully said, thank you so much, Bugs, for taking the time. I know there's a lot going on and a lot coming up, so I truly do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about everything gear and all of that. So we'll make sure we put your information below for the guitar lessons and all that, because I think that's such a cool thing that you're doing. So taking that time to help other people. So anything else that you wanted to add before we say goodbye?
No, that's it. And I appreciate you guys again. Obviously, keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye for now.